Hello, my name is Fred Dodson. This series of videos is called Being Authentic. By the end of these 10 videos, you're not going to be somebody other than you already are. You're going to be more of who you already are. That is, I'm not trying to turn monkeys into lions or lions into monkeys, but rather I'm helping you become more of a monkey. All kidding aside, rather than transforming from a lion into a monkey or trying to be something other than you are, you're going to become more of a lion, more of a fish, more of a monkey, more of what you really are, more of what you already are. You're going to be stronger, you're going to feel more free to express yourself, you're going to be more aligned with your truth, and therefore more aligned with reality, and therefore more able to influence reality. You see, I'm a reality creation coach. I teach people success, and I've noticed that one of the big stoppers in success is that people are not authentic mostly. They're not who they really are. And in this first lesson, we're going to be looking at one of the main reasons for that, which is the fear of abandonment. Can you imagine that? You're not being who you really are traces back to a deeply rooted fear of abandonment that developed in childhood. I'll give you a moment to think about that. That's the claim I'm making here. Your fear of rejection, your fear of not speaking up, your approval seeking and attention seeking traces back to a childhood fear of abandonment. And if that sounds strange or bizarre, let me explain to you how this fear developed. Maybe you can recall from your own childhood and see if any of what I say triggers that, or maybe you see it in other children, that you were crying, you were not well, and you didn't get immediate attention. You weren't hugged. Or you felt hungry and you didn't get any food. Or you were all alone, nobody was around. Or your parents were angry and you thought it was about you. And that's what happens. Children can't discern, they can't separate. They think it's about them. They think it's their fault. And they're terrified of being abandoned. Okay? Why isn't anybody hugging me? I'm hurt. Have I been abandoned? That's what goes through a baby's consciousness. Why am I not being fed? Okay, I'm hungry, nobody's feeding me, am I being abandoned? The terrifying sense of loneliness and being separate. My dad got angry, is it because he doesn't like me? And if he doesn't like me, does it mean he's going to abandon me? As I say these things, I'd like you to reflect. I'd like you to feel, to see if that triggers anything inside you. Yes, we are trying to trigger a slight sense at least, or a strong sense, of abandonment. And I know that's not pleasant. It's not the feel-good training you might have expected at first. But going through this is very, very rewarding. getting to the root of many of your problems. And that feeling of abandonment lies at the root. Your mom didn't come back from work on time, so the first thought of a child is, does she not like me anymore? Has she abandoned me? So you see, children take it personally. They think it's about them. They think everything revolves around them. That's how the ego develops. You think everything is about you. Everything is personal. You have no idea that mom might be stuck in traffic, or that there may be some other reason other than yourself. For you, it must mean she does not like you anymore and that you are not good enough. This thought right there, I am not good enough, leads to a sense or a fear of abandonment. So, once that develops, the next question is, how can I secure my parents' love and attention? How can I secure my food? Another way to say this is, how can I secure my survival? And the way we do that is by trying to be what they expect us to be, trying to figure out who they want us to be, trying to look good in their eyes. And that's when we start losing our authenticity, at a very early age, actually. And children can be very authentic, okay? But the more fears and the more lack of love you have in life, and the less hugs, the more you start to strategize on how you might be able to get that love. Which is why it's so important to hug your little kids, not to harm them, but to hug them, to give them plenty and plenty and plenty of attention so that they feel safe. Otherwise, they're not going to become functional adults unless they work on themselves, unless they hug and appreciate and love themselves very strongly throughout life. So you got to give yourself the love if you did not receive it from others. So that's what happens. And then we put on a mask, we leave our authentic self, and we try to be something other than who we are in order to appease others, in order to fulfill their expectations, in order not to get rejected, in order to look good. And at the same time, we feel sorry for others. We project our own pain to others and feel pity with them. So that might translate into you not breaking up a relationship, or you not firing an employee because you feel so sorry for them. You don't want to hurt them because you yourself were hurt. Even if they're a horrible employee, even if they lie, even if they steal, you're not going to break their feelings by firing them. Okay? Or you're not going to leave your cheating spouse because you'd feel sorry for him or her. No matter what they do, you're not going to leave them because you don't want to hurt them, no matter how much they hurt you. So in extreme cases, that's how far it can go. That's how far inauthenticity and being terrified of abandonment can go. We don't abandon negative people because we ourselves are afraid of being abandoned. And can you imagine how many inauthentic and unreal games that creates in life? Now, if you didn't get this sense of fear of abandonment up while I was talking, there's another way to get it up, to bring it up. And why does it have to come up? In order to release. You got to feel it and understand it, and while looking at it, you got to appreciate that inner child. Love and hug that inner child in order to release it. Okay? So another way to bring it up is to think of something, think of an incident where you desperately needed somebody's approval or were terrified of their rejection. Think about it. Whose approval did you need? Or when were you terrified of rejection? And you know what? Most of us are. Most of us didn't get enough hugs. Or we got dependent on the hugs we did get. Never learned to give ourselves the hugs. Why would you not feel comfortable being authentic? Being authentic meaning speaking your truth, doing what you like, taking your time, stating your true view. Why would you not feel comfortable with that? What might happen? Could you lose somebody? Could you lose people's interest? Could you lose people's attention? Could you rock the boat? You see, that's the thing. People who try to fulfill others' expectations do not become more loved, paradoxically. Just the opposite. Nobody really likes them that much because they are not their true selves, and everybody can feel it. Even though they don't see it or hear it, even though it's not obvious, it's all felt at a subtle, subconscious level. Have you been afraid of rejecting people? Think about that. Do you hesitate to fire somebody? Do you hesitate to break up with somebody, even though you know they're not good for you? Do you hesitate to cancel a contract, cancel an agreement, even though you authentically know it's not good for you? And why do you do that? Why are you scared of rejecting people? Well, I'll tell you why. Because you are afraid of being rejected by the people you're afraid of rejecting. They might get angry. They might not like it. I might hurt their feelings. But what happens when you don't tell people the truth? When you don't tell them the truth, they cannot grow, they cannot improve. Okay? Let's say I fire an employee. Not that I have any, but let's say I fire an employee. Yes, that's right, I do most of the things myself. Very little outsourcing in my life. But if I were to fire an employee because he's not doing the job that I want him to do, and I tell him in a respectful and gentle manner, not in a, I'm going to fire you, you idiot, in an abrasive manner, because this whole abrasiveness, again, comes from having suppressed authentic communication. And then one day it blows out as anger, as a temper tantrum, okay? But if you're used to expressing yourself authentically, you can say, look, I don't like the way this job is going. We need to part ways because of this, this, and this, and this. And the other might be hurt and might get those old childhood fears of abandonment, but that's his opportunity or her opportunity to deal with it, to have that fear of rejection come up. Oh my God, Fred just rejected me. Oh dear. And it gives them the opportunity to get better so that next time they're not rejected. You see how it works? Every rejection is an opportunity to get better. I've been rejected so many times in my life, and every single rejection has helped me. So the assumption that rejection is something bad comes from the fearful, abandoned child. Every time I got rejected, I got even better. You have no idea how many publishers rejected my work. And every time I got rejected, I said, okay, I gotta get even better until my work is so good, so clear, so profound, and so irresistible that nobody could reject it. And by the time I reached a point where I no longer got rejected, I didn't even want publishers' approval anymore. I wanted to publish myself. So rejection is an opportunity to eventually reach a point where you don't need these people's approval anymore, and when you don't need their approval anymore, they will approve of you. Okay? When you're no longer afraid of rejection, you're no longer rejected. If you want to stop being rejected, you have to stop rejecting yourself. So every rejection is simply a call for improvement, growth, more and more and more and more and more growth, until rather than running after people, you have people running after you. So in other words, this negative belief that says, I am not good enough, can be used to improve, to actually become good enough, to develop the belief that you are good enough and still getting better. So you don't have to stay in the I'm not good enough feeling. You can actually improve, and you can tell yourself, I may not be perfect, but I'm pretty good and still getting better, which is a much healthier belief. This underlying I'm not good enough that we hold on to in childhood leads to overcompensation, to being very tense and always trying to do your very best and being perfectionist and not allowing yourself to make any mistakes whatsoever. And I hope nobody sees I made this mistake. Oh my goodness! I hope nobody notices what a fool I am. And a lot of us have that for a long time in our teenagerhood and even in our 20s and up to 30s. I know people, they still have it in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Some people carry that weight their entire life. The weight of being watched, having to fulfill others' expectations, and so forth and so on. Okay? So a child thinks it's my fault, and is it true that it's your fault that mommy doesn't come back? Or that you don't get attention? Is that true? Well, in childhood, it's mostly not true. With most people, it's not true because mommy and daddy want to hug you because by nature you're cute as a child. They want to react to your crying because crying is unpleasant. They want you to stop. So in most cases, it's not true. Cases in which it is true are the cases in which parents are actually really neglectful, cold, emotionless, have no heart, negative parents, but that's very, very rare. And if you had such negative parents by any chance, well, good for you, because then you have to work on this much more deeply and can discover more of yourself that way. Okay? You got to give yourself the love and the rewards and the hugs and the food. So that's one advantage of having negative, unloving parents. You become extremely self-reliant. It can make you very strong if you label it that way and take it that way. If you accept the challenge, it can make you very, very strong. Okay? That's not to say that pampered children do not become strong, they also become strong. They have an easier time being healthy, they have an easier time acquiring things, an easier time being successful, but it's no guarantee. Or to put this even more precisely, good parenting gives you a balance of hugs and self-discipline. As a general rule of the thumb, until a child is about 5 years old, it should get all the attention, all the love, and all the hugs you can give. And then between the ages 5 and 10, it should learn some self-discipline and self-reliance. That's the natural progression, and most parents know that intuitively. You see, most things are geniusly already put into nature, already created in nature. So let's put this first training session into practice. See if you can write down a few instances in which you were rejected or feared rejection, and put this recording on pause while you do so. And then write down a few instances you were afraid or timid of rejecting others. You felt pity for others. And there's a big difference between compassion and love and pity. We'll get to that later. Instances in which you were afraid of rejecting others or putting down others. And again, turn off this video while you do so. Okay, and now take all those instances where you were afraid of rejection or actually got rejected, all those incidents, and try to remember, feel, visualize them. Try to put awareness on them so that you actually feel something. Feel that vulnerability and that sense of looming abandonment. Can you feel that rejection? Can you feel, visualize, and remember that rejection? And going deeper, then what? What if you're rejected? Then what? What does that mean? What does it say about you if you're rejected? What's behind the fear of being rejected? Can you feel or see that? And in 99% of the cases, what you'll find is the idea that you're not good, that you're somehow bad, that you're somehow a loser, or undesirable, or unworthy of love, that you are not loved. So can you get a sense of that? I'm not good, I'm not good enough, I'm not loved, I'm not worthy. Can you get a sense of that? Can you feel that? Eyes open or closed? Can you allow that to come up without resistance? Can you stop pressing things down and just allow that sense to come up, regardless of whether it's big or small? Some people have a small sense of fear, some have a large sense of fear, depending upon how many times you've already released it. But really, you only got to release it once for real, big time. So let it all come up. Who are you? How does it reflect on you that you were rejected? And most of the time you'll find an idea of yourself, a self-image that says, I'm no good. I'm not loved. I'm alone. I'm all alone in the universe. It reminds you of when you were actually a energy being all alone in the universe. There was such a time. That's where it originally comes from. We experience many separations. Sorry for getting metaphysical, but it's just the truth as I authentically see it. You see, I'm not going to censor myself. That's how I see it. I think we were separated originally from the highest source in the universe. And then again, at birth, we were separated from the mother. Those are two painful separations that made us believe there's some kind of abandonment or loneliness going on. But in reality, we always remained connected to the entire universe and connected to all other beings. And then to balance all of this out and get rid of these unpleasant feelings, I'd like you now to imagine that you are, in fact, okay or good enough or just fine, and consistently getting better and improving. Okay, so I am good enough, but I'm still improving. I'm not perfect, but I got things to improve. Because if you exaggerate to the other side and say, okay, I'm the best and I'm the greatest, that's not real. That's not going to convince the inner child. Okay, so right now, see if you can bring up a sense of being good, being a good person, or remember examples of being a good person, and also imagine getting all the attention and approval and acknowledgement and praise and money and medals and responses and emails and phone calls that you ever wanted from your dad, from your mom, from your friends, from your spouse, from your lover, from your ex-lover, from your friends, from your boss, from your colleague, from your employee, from your grandfather, from your child, from whoever you wanted. Imagine getting all that attention. All the attention that you ever wanted. This is called attention bombing. You're bombing yourself with attention. Filling yourself with attention, and that's why you feel good at once. You see, you're not dependent on others' attention. You can bomb yourself with attention because as you imagine it, so it is for your subconscious, for your inner child. Your inner child cannot discern between what is imagined and what is real. That's why as a kid, even though your mommy loved you, you felt abandoned by your mommy just because she came home late from work, because you cannot, as a child, discern real from imagined. And it's the same way now. Your inner child and your subconscious, which are pretty much the same thing, cannot discern imagination from reality. So if you love bomb yourself in imagination by imagining that you receive that love, that acknowledgement, those emails, that money, that job, whatever it is you want, you'll feel better. The inner child will be put at ease. So take some time to get a sense of being good and deserving and getting all that attention. From one person or from many. And also imagine being one with the universe, not separate, being one with everybody, being loved forever. You are loved forever. That's what everybody really wants. And if it weren't true, we wouldn't want it. You are, in fact, loved forever. That's something to think about. Asked by who? Who loves me forever? Well, it's something to think about. It's something to feel. Because just the thought that you are loved forever is going to heal the whole construct. It's going to blow up the whole negative construct in one instant. If you can only grasp that you are loved forever. And then the second exercise in video 1 is to take the list of times you were afraid of rejecting others and get a sense of that. Bring that up. Feel your fear of rejecting others. Why am I afraid of rejecting others? Who am I when I have that timidity? Who am I when I have that fear? Why am I afraid of that? Well, I'm afraid of others' reactions. They might get angry or be disappointed, feel sorry for them, or afraid of them. And what's behind that? What's behind your fear of their reaction? Well, is it not the very same I'm not good enough inner child, afraid of being abandoned persona? Is it not the same one? Surprise, surprise. Can you see that it's the same one? And can you feel that person right now, that inner child, who's afraid to reject others because he or she might be rejected herself? And it's enough to just confront and see this. Okay? You repeat that a few times and you'll get a hang of what the inner child is and what you are authentically very quickly. And it'll be much easier for you to be your authentic self. Much, much easier. And to balance this out now, imagine simply being authentic. If you want to say no or reject somebody, imagine simply doing so calmly, not shyly or timidly or angrily, but calmly. You see, that anger, it's always suppressing your authentic self. Always. You suppress your authentic self for a while, it blows up in anger. But if you were authentic to begin with, there would be no need for anger. You won't have anger anymore. So imagine authentically rejecting who you want to reject. This is not about rejecting people you don't want to reject. I'm talking about instances in which you really want to say no or reject someone and didn't out of fear or pity. Pity is not the same thing as compassion. Get to that later. Imagine doing that, and while you imagine doing that, imagine people reacting with respect and gratitude in the long run for you helping them grow. Because in the long run, that's what really happens if you pull open the veil. That's what's really going on. They respect and love you for helping them grow. And it does help them grow. It does help them deal with their issues. It does help them improve and get better. And do that for a while. Imagine rejecting and people being grateful, actually. Even if it doesn't appear that way at first. Okay, so that's the second exercise. It's taking your fear of rejection, tracing it back to who's afraid, why he or she is afraid, and then balancing it out in the other polarity with imagining being authentic and people being okay with it. And you'll see they will be. You can be who you really are. You don't have to censor yourself anymore. So these two exercises, you take them and you run through them a few times in the next weeks, months, or years as needed. And just running through them a few times, you get a sense of how it works, and the old ways eventually disappear because they've been detected. You can see them clearly now. You no longer fall for them and are so enabled to choose what you authentically know and feel is right. Until you reach a point with awareness where you don't get rejected much anymore. You don't get rejected much anymore because you're no longer terrified of it. You see, we attract the things we're so terrified of, the things we suppress. If we openly express things, instead of suppressing them, we don't attract them. I'll see you again, if you like, in the second video of 10 in the training series, Being Authentic. My name is Fred Dodson. Have a great day.